There's a store in LA selling a single cup of water for $12, and people are lining up to buy it. Look, we're all used to paying for water. $1 for a bottle or 3 or 4 at the airport, totally fine, we get it. But on paper, $12 for one cup is flat out ridiculous. But here's the part that should genuinely break your brain. If that same store dropped the price to a sensible $3, people would want it less, not more. Demand for it would actually go down. That's completely counterintuitive and is against everything we learn in Economics 101. When the price goes up, demand should go down. But I guarantee you, if they were to bring down that crazy price, the whole magic of it would fall apart. That crazy pricing is actually what's doing the selling. And once you understand why, you'll understand the most powerful and least understood force in all of business. It's called branding. And if you're a business owner looking for long-term success, you need to understand it. Hello, I'm Brent Shiratori, and this is Ideal Marketing. In this video, I'm going to use that $12 cup of water to show you the single biggest idea in marketing, the one I wish every business owner truly understood. I'll show you why a higher price can actually create more demand, which sounds impossible until you see it happen. And then I'll show you how you can use it. How an ordinary business like a painter, a dentist, a local coffee shop can use this same force without a celebrity and no Beverly Hills zip code. Stay to the end because I'll give you the one rule that keeps this power from turning you into a fraud. Let me set the stage. Erewhon is a grocery store in Los Angeles. If you've never been in one, picture a supermarket that's designed like a luxury boutique. Flattering lighting, produce arranged like jewelry, a tonic bar, celebrity smoothies with famous names attached, and a single strawberry that runs about $19. This summer, they added a new item called Sacred Water, made by a brand called Jolie. $12 for a 12-ounce cup. On paper, it sounds really fancy. Grape juice, coconut milk, coconut water, jasmine tea, and a few herbs. Except a reporter at the LA Times actually drank it and said it just tasted like regular coconut water and not much else. Somebody filmed those price tags and the internet lost its mind. Called it a crime, called it a scam, and then more people showed up to buy it. That reaction right there, the outrage and the buying happening at the same time, is your first clue that something strange is going on. Every ounce of common sense says a $12 cup of water should fail on day one. Instead, it's a hit. And the mockery only made it bigger. So let's talk about why. Because the answer could be worth a fortune for your business. The first thing that makes this water so important is that it breaks the most basic law in all of economics. On day one of economics class, they teach you the demand curve. Price goes up, demand goes down. Make something more expensive and fewer people will want it. Just hearing that principle, it sounds like common sense. But there's a strange corner of the economy where the line bends the other way, where raising the price makes people want the thing more. Economists named it after the man called Thorstein Veblen, who noticed that some goods exist mainly to broadcast status, and their entire appeal comes from being expensive. A Veblen product gets more desirable as the price climbs, not less. Think diamonds or designer bags or a Porsche. Part of what you're buying is the fact that most people can't buy it. Now look at water through that lens. At $12, it's a sensation. People film it, argue about it, line up for it. Now imagine Erewhon dropped it to $3 or $5. Suddenly, it's just another overpriced juice in the cooler, and nobody makes a video about a $3 drink. For the customer, that $12 price is actually the main feature. They're buying the number as much as the liquid. Mind you, this isn't only about rich people and luxury water. It's a common thread through ordinary things as well. When you need surgery, you don't go looking for the cheapest surgeon in town. When a company hires a consultant, the one charging $500 an hour is often taken more seriously than the one charging $150. Before either of them has said a single word, the price itself signals that they must be worth it. In a lot of markets, being the cheapest option quietly signals the opposite of what you're hoping for. It whispers that even you don't really believe your work is worth much. This only works because of what the high price signals. It signals that it is special, that it's for a certain kind of person. And that signal is pure branding. To really see how deep this goes, watch what happens when you take that price and that fancy name and wrap around the cheapest water in the world. Jimmy Kimmel's show did exactly that. They went onto Hollywood Boulevard, handed people a cup, and told them it was Erewhon's $12 sacred water. What they didn't mention is that the cup was actually filled with plain hose water from the back parking lot. The reactions are incredible. One person calls it the freshest water they've ever tasted. Another starts naming flavors like honey, hibiscus, a little cucumber, a hint of avocado. Somebody says that it has the same mouthfeel of oatmeal that is hugging their tongue. One guy says he can feel it in his legs. Think about that. These people are tasting honey and avocado in a cup of garden hose water. And when the host finally tells one man it came from a hose, he barely flinches. He says it still tastes fresh and good to me. Now, I want to be straight with you. This is a late night comedy bit. They picked the best reactions and some of the folks were probably playing along with the camera. So don't mistake me in thinking that I believe this is validated evidence that proves this principle. But look, I would bet almost anything it's not far from the truth, because a lot of people really do think and taste exactly like that. And we have hard science that backs it up. There's a famous Caltech study where people were given the same wine but told different prices. The ones who thought it was expensive got measurably more pleasure from it, and you could see it light up on their brain scan. The price literally changed how good the wine tasted. So the label didn't just change what people would pay, it changed what they experienced with their own senses. The story reached in and rewired the flavor. Sit with that for a minute. A brand can be so strong, it can make someone believe that there is actually honey and avocado notes in a cup of hose water. This is the deepest power a business can ever have. The power to change how reality itself feels to your customer. So let me share the idea that's underneath all of this. There is no such thing as objective value. We're raised to believe that things have a real, true, correct price buried inside them, and that a good deal is when you pay less than that true number. But that number was never real. It doesn't exist at all, and it never did. Peter Drucker, who essentially invented business strategy, said the purpose of a business is to create a customer. And you create a customer by offering something they perceive as valuable. Perceive. The whole game lives in that one word. It doesn't matter what the thing is worth on some cosmic scale. What matters is what the person in front of you believe it's worth right now, with their own hopes and fears and mood. Value doesn't come out of the object. It gets built inside the mind of the person looking at it. The same bottle of water is $1 at the store, 4 at the airport, 8 on a beach chair handed to you in a chilled glass, and everything in your wallet if you're lost in the desert. The liquid never changed once. The value swung wildly because the story around it changed. Erewhon didn't find a magic spring. They built the richest story in the world around the plainest product on earth and then charged you for the story. So when someone buys that $12 cup of water, what are they actually paying for? Let me give you a hint. It has nothing to do with the water. It's all about the story they tell themselves about what that cup of water means to them. It says, I can take care of my body. It says, I can afford to buy it. It says, I belong. One shopper described the whole Erewhon experience as buying Chanel sunglasses when you can't quite actually afford real Chanel. A small, affordable piece of life that feels expensive and clean and elevated. When you think about it, $12 is nothing for a feeling like that. And this is where the word brand finally means something real. Most people think that their brand is their logo or their colors or the font on their sign, but those are just triggers, little cues that set off the real thing. Because your brand is a story people tell themselves about why they buy your product. Now go ahead and read that again slowly, because it should change the way you see your entire business. Your brand does not live on your business card, it lives in your customer's head. It is the meaning and value they have assigned to your product. Erewhon spent years building a story so strong that a cup of coconut water becomes a badge people are proud to hold. What they're really selling is permission to feel like the person they most want to be. And people will pay almost anything for them because it's the one thing a cheaper competitor can never put in their cart. Now here's what should hit you about all of this. Whether you run a painting crew, a law office, or a little coffee shop, you might be thinking, okay, fine. That works for a celebrity grocery store in LA, but I sell a real product to normal people, count every single dollar. But listen closely. You're already selling a story. Every business is. The only question is whether you choose that story on purpose or let it get chosen for you by accident. When you don't build a story around what you sell, your customer builds one for you. And the default story is almost always much less than what you wish it was. Like, this is just a commodity, so I'm gonna choose the cheapest option. That is probably the worst possible story to be trapped inside. And most businesses live there, their whole lives, grinding their prices down and wondering why nothing ever feels special. In another video, I described every buying decision as an iceberg, where the price and the features are just the tip poking above the water. And the real decision happens deep underneath, out of sight. The real story is what's moving down there in the dark. So let me make it concrete. Let's take a coffee shop. One shop sells you coffee. $2, fine, but it's forgotten by lunch. The shop across the street sells the same beans, but they tell you the farm in Ethiopia it came from. They roast it right in the window. They know your order by your third visit, and they hand it to you in a room that feels like the living room you wish you had. Now that's a $5 cup of coffee. People pay for it gladly every single morning because caffeine isn't the point. What they're really buying is a small daily ritual at a place that feels like theirs. A house painter who just walks in and quotes a number is stuck fighting every other painter on that number and nothing else. But a painter who talks about protecting the biggest investment you will ever own and shows up in clean uniforms, covers your furniture like it was their own home, walks you through a color consultation, and leaves a place spotless, that painter is selling pride and peace of mind, and he gets charged for it. A dentist can be a place you quietly dread for weeks. Or it can be a calm, warm hour where it's obvious someone there actually cares about you. Identical cleaning, wildly different value. In every one of these, the product barely moved an inch. The story around it is what moved everything. And none of it took Erewhon money or a famous face. It just took a decision about what your product means and the patience to build every small detail to back that meaning up. Now, if you want to actually do this instead of just nodding along, here are the 3 steps. First, decide who your customer becomes when they buy from you. Not just what they get, but who they get to be. The coffee drinker becomes a person with good taste and a calmer morning. The painting client becomes a responsible homeowner protecting what they built. Get specific about that identity because that identity is the actual real product. Second, find the old, tired way of doing things in your industry and stand against it out loud. I talked about this in my framing video. The fresh burger stand against the frozen patty trucked in from a warehouse 1,000 miles away. Your version of that gives the customer something to be for and something to be against. And that contrast is where a story gets its heat. Third, obsess over the details your customer can actually feel. Not the specs on your sheet, but the things they touch and see and hear. The lighting, the way they're greeted, the weight of the packaging, the small, unexpected touch right at the end. Erewhon is a cathedral built entirely out of those details, and every one of them whispers quietly the same story. Now, the one rule I promised you, because honestly, this concept can also cheat a lot of people and sell them crappy products. Once you accept that value is a story, it's tempting to think that the product no longer matters, that you can wrap a good enough story around a low quality good and charge whatever you want. But if you go down that road, you're not building a brand, you're just running a con. The story only holds up as the product underneath it can carry the weight. What Erewhon actually gets right, under all the silliness of the high prices and the celebrity endorsements, is that it delivers on its story at the end of the day. Walk in and the lighting really is beautiful. The produce really is stunning. The staff really are friendly and helpful. the whole place genuinely makes you feel like you stepped into a nicer version of your own life. The $12 water is ridiculous, yes, but the world built around it is real, and the story and the experience match it. The day those two stop matching is the day the whole thing collapses, because a customer who feels tricked doesn't just leave quietly, they tell everyone they will never come back. So yes, accept that value is a story, but it's a story on purpose. Charge what the story is honestly worth. Just make sure that when your customer opens the box, walks through your door, or takes that first sip, what they actually get lives up to every word you told them to get them there. Do that, and I promise you never have to fight on price again. So if this changed the way you think about your own prices, even just a little, go watch my last video on the 7 psychological triggers that can help you make a sale. It's the perfect next step, and it shows those levers working just under the surface. And if you want to learn more about ways of how you can apply advanced brand and marketing strategies to your business, hit subscribe. I put out a new video every week on how marketing actually works for all types of businesses. Remember, you don't need to buy more ads when you have better ideas.